Hey everyone, it's Patrick from Oakland Travel, and welcome to the streets of Berlin, Germany. This was about September of 2018. We were there for 2 weeks, kind of touring around, seeing the amazing country, learning the history, etc. And speaking of history, this is a segway tour that we're still kind of in the middle of, and we're, in Berlin, just kind of going from various, places and everything. And what you're going to see here in a minute is a very important part of history. In Berlin, it is the location of what used to be the Führerbunker, which is where Hitler had his bunker during World War II when the Nazis were in power, and et cetera, et cetera. It's basically where he killed himself towards the end of the war. It's got a very unique history. It's been turned into a modern day car park. So essentially just a place for, people to park, like public parking space essentially. But it's got a very interesting history to it. And so our guide here in just a moment is going to kind of tell us about what was going on at that point in the war. My wife and I are fascinated by history. So when we were planning this trip, we knew that we wanted to try to go see as many places as we could that were sort of historical. Coming up later in the vlog series, we've got some footage from one of the concentration camps. We've already had some footage in the blog from the topography of terror, a little bit of history about the Berlin Wall. We're going to have some more footage coming up later in the vlog series about the Berlin Wall from another part of the city. So this vlog series definitely includes a lot of history of Berlin, Soviet era, World War II, Nazis, all of it. So it's to me personally, it's a fascinating, insight into the history of the city. And so coming up here in a moment, we're going to be at the Führerbunker, and we'll get off our segways and we'll learn about some history.
Hi there, Maria here from Oakland Travel. Just wanted to pop in with a quick reminder. If you enjoyed this video, please click the thumbs up. If you're new here or you haven't yet subscribed, please consider subscribing with the notification bell on so you'll know when we post new content. Thank you so much for your support to help us reach our goal of 10,000 subscribers by the end of 2022.
Partly because the Soviets are just outside the city. They've laid siege to the city. Bombing is pretty much every day by now, so he goes underground for protection. Partly as well, he goes underground so his officers can control him. He's becoming more and more paranoid and irrational towards the end of the war. His orders aren't making any sense. His soldiers are pleading with him to use the last of the ammunition to break through the Russian enemy lines to freedom. Probably for themselves more than for him at that point. However, no, Hitler says, no, we're going to make our final stand here in Berlin. He orders his tanks and infantry to come in a pincer movement to try and break the Russian siege. However, at this point, he's ordering around tanks without gasoline, soldiers without bullets. Most of his armies are either dead, deserted, or captured. The last time we see him above ground is on the 20th of April, his birthday. He comes above ground to pin medals on the last defenders of Berlin. The last defenders of Berlin at that point are nothing but 14-year-old boys and girls. Anyone who can hold a rifle or a Panzerfaust, those are the ones who are the last defenders of Berlin. You can imagine how sorry this must have looked as well, him with his shaking hands, pinning medals on kids. I think he knew how bad it was as well, because on the 29th of April, he marries his long-term mistress, Eva Braun. He doesn't marry Eva Braun for the entire time that he's Führer, because he considers himself married to the German people. This is almost like him divorcing the German people and marrying her. The following day, on the 30th of April, they commit joint suicide. Marriage isn't for everyone, you know what they say? Maybe she wanted a nicer honeymoon, but in fact they had a cyanide capsule. A cyanide capsule they tested on their dog Blondie first as well. I'm always sad when the dog dies. And for good measure, as he bites down on the capsule, Hitler shoots himself in the head. For good measure. As I said, this paranoia is going through him constantly. He's worried that his own troops will sedate him and hand him over to the Russians. Now, as he does commit suicide there, his last order to his bodyguard is to bring him above ground, take him into a bomb crater actually over in the corner over there, pour the body with gasoline and burn the body. He does not want his body to become a trophy. As the bodyguard burns the body, suddenly becomes a lot less loyal and runs off, leaving the body to be burnt, set on fire. Russians, when they arrive, they're able to find parts of this body still remaining. Crucially, they find parts of his jawbone and parts of his skull, which they're then later able to use to identify that it was indeed Hitler's remains. However, the Russians, they don't tell the rest of the Allies that they've got Hitler's body. They kind of say, yeah, no, we think he escaped. They wanted to keep the Allies busy outside of Berlin. Now, this kind of gives rise to some of the myths that perhaps Hitler escaped. Certainly other high-ranking officials did escape to places like Argentina, South America, places like this. However, Hitler would be over 130 by now. So I think if we've not heard from him yet, we probably won't hear from him in the future. Something tells me that Elvis and Tupac would not welcome Hitler in the Not Dead Club, so it's safe to say he's gone.
So where was his actual bunker at?
15 meters below the ground, here. 15 meters below the ground with 4-meter thick concrete walls, over 30 rooms, so pretty much this entire complex, but completely underground.
And is it still there now?
Well, it pretty much could withstand anything they could throw at it. The Soviets did try to destroy it, but when they set off the fuse, the bunker rose a few centimeters and then settled back. The one thing that bunkers are very good at is not being blown up. So the East Germans, when they inherited this area, they ended up drilling holes into the ceiling and collapsing down what they could. It was like a two-tier kind of construction. So they collapsed down what they could of the upper bunker and filled the entrance full of concrete. So to answer your question, yes, still here below ground. Now, they've made it a car park. I think it's interesting that there's not any kind of museum or anything here. I guess they didn't want it to become a shrine, a memorial, a point of pilgrimage. Unfortunately, far-right politics is not dead in this world. Some nutjobs still worship Hitler. I guess they wanted to make sure that this spot never became something like this.
They didn't want to celebrate him.
And they also didn't want it to become a tourist spot. I think they didn't want it to become like that kind of thing.
Cult spot. Maybe like a cult.
A cult spot, you're exactly right. And so they made it a car park. They say, what's the best way to ignore something? Make it a car park.
Perfect.
No one. They only added this plaque in 2006 when the World Cup was in town. I guess they didn't want drunk English tourists coming through and saying, hey, where's Hitler's bunker, you know? These buildings, interestingly enough, are communist buildings. We're still in the east most of the day. The wall kind of, you know, the road we were going along before kind of follows the road. So they wanted people to look over the wall into the east and think, my, don't they have it nice in the east?
Yes.
I'll let you be the judge. But I think it's funny, communist buildings surrounding Hitler's old bunker. There's actually a multi-language kindergarten where they teach kids lots of languages from a young age. There's a Jewish bakery just under that archway. And if you get in a theme, there's actually a gay sauna in the basement of this building. It's nude after 6. Yeah, so all of these things around Hitler's bunker.